The chaos in the cow, the bar, and the leg we eat. A Confession in 7 Acts. Elias Winter. May 11th, 2025. Read by an automated voice. 1. The Bar of the Beautiful and the Alone. Red Ash, Italian. Downtown Austin. The kind of place designed to be remembered. Dimly lit, gold-lined, populated by couples who dress like they've already won. The bar itself was a kind of altar, long, rectangular, glowing like a rectangle of light in a Caravaggio. You don't sit at bars like that unless you want to be seen, or unless you've made peace with being alone in the middle of a stage. I ordered wine, or maybe it was Amaro, a kind of Valpolicella, I think, though that's not quite right. I'd asked to taste, too, before I chose. The sommelier didn't flinch. That was part of the ritual, the illusion of discernment, the performance of control. I watched the couples, women in expensive dresses with men in linen shirts who looked like they'd done startups in another life. Some of the men were gay, but it was hard to say who. Were they with lovers or best friends? Were they faking desire or faking friendship? There's a pose gay men learn, somewhere between aesthetic fluency and social retreat, that makes us invisible in spaces like that. Present, but weightless. Observed, but never asked. I sat in silence. A gay man in his 30s, well-dressed, alone at a bar, meant for declarations. Of course I was alone. I'm always alone. It used to feel like a wound. Now it's just furniture. And then she arrived. She wore a hat that did not belong to this decade. Wide-brimmed, high fashion, more statement than accessory. She moved like someone who knew she could take up space without explanation. She sat next to me without hesitation. No smile, no nod. Just presence. It was theatrical and human at the same time. She started talking about the fashion show she was organizing in Austin. Of course she was organizing a fashion show. Her sentences were like exhibits, each one placed gently before me, as if to say, "This is who I am, and this is why I matter." She had lived in New York. Of course she had. Served Madonna once at a Michelin-starred restaurant. Knew the kind of waitstaff stories that end with someone gasping, "You didn't." She spoke French. Of course she did. And when I responded fluently, something shifted. "Oh," she said, "you're actually French." I am. Not just fluent, not just traveled. I'm a citizen. Paris, Marseille, long nights, long years. But I didn't tell her all that. I let her continue. It wasn't my night to speak. She spoke Spanish to the waiters. I watched them melt subtly. She had Saint-Tropez in her mouth. You could tell she had floated across centuries of wealth and artistry, and had managed to make all of it seem earned. She made me laugh. She made me ache. And I said almost nothing. Not because I didn't want to speak, but because I've learned. People don't really want to know you. Not if you aren't part of their narrative arc. She was the protagonist. I was a moment. A propriedad. A voice to nod in French. A face to receive her stories. She didn't know I'd published a book under another name. That I've lived through exile and addiction. That I once led recovery groups where men cried over mothers who hit them. That I write about empire and collapse and spiritual grief in a voice that isn't mine, but might be God's. She didn't ask. I didn't say. But something broke open when the food arrived. Filet. Medium rare. 10 ounces. I'd ordered it without thinking. A small ritual of indulgence. The kind of thing I allow myself now, because the days are so long and the work is so hard, and the loneliness is so unrelenting. The steak was perfect. A red-pink center, seared edges, juices pooling like the final note of a song. It paired beautifully with the wine. Everything was, by worldly standards, just right. And then I saw Margot. 2. The cow and the daughter. She was a cow, my father's cow. In the countryside, in the days before the world turned digitized and unrecognizable. Her name was Margot, Margot, like the French queen. Her daughter was named Gougit, Gougit, or something close. A made-up name, sacred in its intimacy. Margot was kind, dignified. She had the kind of eyes that make you wonder if animals understand more than we do. She didn't fight. She let you own her, let you pet her, let you lead her. Because the cows that survive are the ones who learn to be gracious toward slaughter. That's the evolutionary secret no one talks about. We didn't just breed animals to be edible. We bred them to be submissive. We bred out the wildness. We selected for kindness. We chose the ones who wouldn't make us feel guilty while we killed them. And as I sat there at the bar, slicing into my $60 filet, I realized I am eating Margot, or her cousin, or someone bred from her lineage. I am eating her leg, her flesh, her memory, and I dare to write essays about mercy. 3. The prophet and the stake. Elias Winter worries about the poor. He writes about America's fiscal lies, its abandoned elders, its invisible immigrants. He calls for taxes on the rich, for amnesty for the undocumented, for the restoration of a moral center in a collapsing empire. And here I am, eating steak, drinking wine, flirting at the grocery store, writing about cows. You're full of shit, Elias. You're not a prophet. You're a man in mocha shoes trying not to cry in public. But of course, we all are. Some of us know it. Some of us don't. The real question is not whether we're hypocrites. We are. The question is whether we remember what it means to be human. Because the moment we stop remembering, we start justifying. We start outsourcing empathy. We start narrating our consumption as self-care. And in that moment, the cow is no longer a being. She is a dish. 4. The woman who hated Bolden. She told me she'd gone to Bolden, the AA group in Austin that dresses itself in recovery, but often trades in spiritual posturing. I was there for 3 years. I know the prayers. I know the performance. I know the silence that follows when your share isn't poetic enough. She was there for 20 days, she said, after a fight in the street. Not a metaphor, a real fist fight. She laughed when she said it, but not the kind of laugh that heals, the kind of laugh that hides. She didn't like Bolden, said it wasn't her kind of place, too rigid, too performative, too much God talk and not enough soul. I agreed, but I also missed it. Not the people, not the slogans, but the structure, the predictability, the illusion that someone, somewhere, might actually see you. She didn't see me. She was beautiful, complicated, American and Spanish and maybe something else. A woman with 4 cities in her voice and 3 centuries in her eyes. But she didn't ask about me. Not really. And I didn't tell her. Not really. Because that's the covenant of loneliness. We don't speak unless we're asked. And most people don't ask. 5. The boys at Royal Blue. After she left, I paid the bill without looking at the total. I didn't want the moment to become transactional. I wanted it to remain a memory, clean, suspended, unitemized. I walked toward the Royal Blue, a boutique grocery tucked into downtown like a secret for those who still pretend they live in Paris. I wasn't hungry. I'd just eaten Margot. I wasn't thirsty. I'd had wine. What I wanted was unclear, until I saw them. The boys behind the counter. I say boys, but they were men. Barely. 19, 22 maybe, hair like soft rebellion, faces like magazine covers before Photoshop ruined them. There was a sadness in their beauty. And I don't say that romantically, I say that spiritually. Because beauty without direction becomes confusion. And confusion, when left alone, becomes despair. I didn't know why I walked in. I told myself I wanted Haribo, those dumb little German gummies that pretend to be joy. I even picked up a pack, but I didn't buy it. Instead, I looked at him, the one I always noticed, the one whose presence made the space feel like it had a soul. "I don't want anything," I said, and smiled. "I think I just wanted to see you." He didn't flinch. He didn't laugh. He just smiled back. "It's my last shift," he said. And in that sentence, a quiet apocalypse. Something in me broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, but like a violin string snapping in the middle of a concerto. You don't stop the music. You play around the silence. We said goodbye. Not as strangers, not quite as friends, just as two humans who had briefly, wordlessly, admitted that life was unbearable and beautiful, and not meant to be carried alone. 6. The grace we forgot. What is mercy, really? Is it choosing not to hurt someone when you have every right to? Is it letting someone go when the law says keep them? Or is it something smaller, stranger, like looking someone in the eye and saying, "I see you, and I'm not afraid"? We think of mercy as a legal act, a pardon, a gesture. But real mercy is relational. It's presence. It's not letting cruelty become the language we speak by default. At Royal Blue, I did not perform. I did not seduce. I did not consume. I simply stood in the presence of another being and told the truth. "I wanted to see you." And he smiled. That was mercy. Mercy is not the opposite of justice. It's what makes justice human. Without mercy, justice becomes punishment. Without mercy, truth becomes cruelty. Without mercy, we eat Margot and tell ourselves we earned it. But mercy is not softness. Mercy is refusal. The refusal to use power when you could. The refusal to look away. The refusal to forget what it feels like to be unseen. The mercy we forgot was never abstract. It was a language, a covenant, a promise not to abandon each other, even when the world begs us to. We replaced it with performance, with punishment, with distance. But it flickers still, in the smile of a grocery boy, in the silence of a bar, in the moment before the knife cuts the steak. 7. The silence of Elias. I came home that night and tried to write. At first I couldn't. The guilt was too loud, the loneliness too honest. I wanted to scream. I wanted to pray. I wanted to be forgiven, not by God, but by Margot, by the man at Royal Blue, by the part of me that still believes in dignity. And then I remembered. Elias Winter is not a prophet. He is a man who sees too much and still chooses to speak. A man who weeps while writing policy. A man who breaks bread and breaks down and breaks the silence. People call me harsh. They say my writing is too moralistic, too intense, but they don't understand. The harshness is love. The intensity is mercy refusing to be forgotten. This essay is not an apology. It is a confession. It is a record of contradiction. It is a way of saying, I ate the leg of someone I once loved. I flirted while preaching repentance. I sat in beauty and remembered slaughter. And I still believe in grace. Not because I deserve it, but because without it, none of this is worth surviving. So if you see me one night, in a bar, alone, with wine and steak and sorrow in my eyes, Know that I am not pretending. I am witnessing. And if I see you, I'll say it too. I don't want anything. I just wanted to see you. Elias Winter, author of Language Matters, a space for reflection on language, power, and decline. Thanks for reading Language Matters. Subscribe for free to receive new posts and support my work.